Welcome to spooky ass shit. That's not really how I talk. This is really how I talk.
Sounds good, though.
Yeah. Tonight, you guys are in for a special treat because the subject matter is near and dear to my heart. The setting is near and dear to my heart. And my co-host is near and dear to my heart.
Aw, thanks.
Because we've known each other for a very long time. Because we grew up in the same town. And tonight's story is set in our hometown. So this is a local legend. But it's kind of a big deal. It's been on TV and it's been in books. Tonight we are going to talk about a place that we like to refer to as Johnstone's Inn, but I'm sure the current owners would like us to use its current name, which is Stone's Public House.
Mm-hmm.
So my guest co-host tonight is my friend who I call Jenny Blades, but she has since gotten married and her new last name is Lissess. But to me, she's always Jenny Blades. She's my hobgoblin.
Oh, yeah.
That's a
right.
private joke, but it was funny to her, so it worked. Jenny is on the board of the Ashland Historical Society. Ashland, Massachusetts.
That's right.
Is our hometown.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk about our local legend that everybody from Ashland knows. Clockers.
Should have been a clocker.
Yeah, is what all the Ashland kids are called. Because the first electric clock was invented. Well, why am I? You're the historian. You tell everybody.
The first electric clock was invented in Ashland by Henry E. Warren.
That's right. And where's that clock now?
The first one?
Yeah.
I'm not too sure, actually.
I'll tell
Probably
you where
the
it is.
Smithsonian.
It's in the Smithsonian.
Oh, there you see. I was right.
Good.
Yes.
But I almost beat you. The professional. So let's talk about Stone's Public House, Johnstone's Inn.
Mm-hmm.
It is supposed to be haunted.
That's correct.
It's currently a bar.
And restaurant.
So people can go see it. They do have a website. It's stonespublichouse.com.
That's right.
And I'm sure they'd appreciate it if you check them out.
And their corned beef cabbage rolls are fantastic.
Yeah, I've always had good times there. It's good stuff.
It's good food.
What can you tell us about the earliest days of Johnstone's Inn?
Johnstone's Inn was built by Captain John Stone in 1834. And at the time, it was called the Railroad House. And it was situated in what was called Unionville at the time.
That's right. Ashland used to be called Unionville.
That's right. And he built it because the railroad was coming to Ashland. So he needed an inn next to the railroad tracks so he could make money off the people that came in from Boston on the train.
And when we say next to the railroad tracks, it is literally like what?
Oh, it's legit.
Like
Parking
5
lot's
feet?
like right next to it, yeah.
From the train tracks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to go, like, cross the road tracks to get to it, yeah.
Yeah, it is right there.
Mm-hmm. When was the first time you heard about Johnstone's?
All right. Okay. The very first time I ever heard about Johnstone's Inn was from my older brother, which is never a good way to hear a ghost story for the first time. One night, we're over my mom's friend's house, and she had a son my brother's age. His name was Jason. And I was tagging along because, my mom and Jason's mom would sit in the kitchen and drink tea and, yenta it up. And then us kids would be playing somewhere. Mm-hmm. Both of them about 6 years older than me. So I don't know how it started to come up, but they started talking about Johnstone's Inn, the haunted restaurant. Called Johnstone's Inn. It was not actually an inn at the time, just a restaurant and bar. And they were saying, yeah, you know what happened there? A long time ago, John Stone was playing poker in the basement.
Oh.
And there was an out-of-towner from New York. And he was cheating at cards. And John Stone called him on it. And the man became very upset. And a big fight ensued. And in the skirmish, John Stone hit him over the head. And the man died.
Ah.
But because he was an out-of-towner, and nobody knew that he was staying there, John Stone said to his poker buddies, who were all Ashland residents, he said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to bury this bitch right here in the basement. And nobody's going to tell a soul about this forever. And they buried the body in the basement. But now, says my brother, those spirits have been trapped in there because they all vowed to share this secret
They made
forever.
the pact.
Right. And also, the guy who was murdered is pretty angry, and he's in there. So my brother was telling me that, the spirits are very violent, and that if you go down the stairs, they will grab you, and they will get you. And I said, well, I've never been to John Stone's before, and after this story, I'm certainly not going to go now, so I'm not worried about this, because they're not going to get anywhere near me.
Mm-hmm.
And I distinctly remember my brother saying, yeah, but they could follow us home sometime. So every time we passed by that red building downtown, which, by the way, had a spooky sign at the time, with the picture of John Stone.
Of him on it.
You can Google search John Stone. Probably type in John Stone's Inn or Stone's Public House, because there's probably other John Stones. But if you Google search, you'll find a picture of the actual Captain John Stone. And you know what he kind of looks like, I think?
Who?
The guy from Sons of Anarchy and Hellboy, Ron Perlman.
Oh, right.
But him crossed with Andrew Jackson from the $20 bill for the hair.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah. It's kind of like a monkey-ish face.
It's also a terrifying picture.
Ape is. Yeah, he
it's
doesn't
blurry,
look. Yeah,
old.
it's a little. Yeah. All right. So that was the first time I heard about it, and aside from the thing about the spirits following you home, my brother actually told a fairly faithful rendition of what the legend is supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it's worth pointing out that originally there was no signs of hauntings. I don't know the whole history. It was originally an inn, as you said.
Yep.
That people would spend the night.
Yep.
And it
was for the railroad.
Yeah.
For people to come and stay in Ashland.
Yeah. And you said that John Stone actually wasn't the innkeeper or anything.
No, he kind of just owned the building. He was never the actual innkeeper for it.
Okay. So chances are he wasn't even there very often.
Probably not, no.
No. Okay. And I don't know when it stopped functioning as an inn. Is there any?
Well, in about the 1850s, the innkeeper at the time kind of went a little crazy. So I don't know if any time after that.
A little crazy?
Yeah, he went a little bonkers. He had some deaths in his family, and he got a little depressed, and just kind of went a little crazy. He's the one that tried to commit suicide 3 times and didn't succeed in it. He shot himself in the head and missed. Shot himself in the chest and was revived. And yeah.
All right. Well, that's some spooky ass shit in itself.
Yeah. He lived for 10 long years after that.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So somewhere around there. So that wasn't too long
probably
after
the turn of the century, I would say.
Yeah. It kind of fell into disrepair from there.
Yeah.
And then I read in one of the books that it was like a honky tonk in the 60s and early 70s.
It kind of turned into a biker bar at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then I believe, 72?
Think so.
When Cappy
took
Fournier
it over. Yep.
takes it over. And that's when things start to get really interesting.
Yeah.
Now, we have to point out, Cappy Fournier owned John Stone's Inn for a long time. And also, we went to school with his daughter.
We did.
Danielle.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, at one point, she had a birthday party when we were still in elementary school. I don't know. We were fairly young, but not so young that I was still terrified of the place.
Maybe just a little bit.
No, I was interested. At this point, I wasn't scared anymore. I wanted to go and see ghosts and stuff.
Cool.
And I remember it was a big deal because we got to go upstairs, which was normally at that time, I believe, off limits.
Yeah, it was functions or something.
To public. So we got to go upstairs, and I remember thinking that I saw the water turn on by itself. Remember me and Jared Sakakini seeing that together. So I don't honestly at this point I don't remember if that's true, but I remember telling people that's what we saw, and we'd throw ourselves on the floor and be like, the ghost did it.
That's awesome. That
was the fun at the birthday party that year. And I recently, even before we started thinking about doing this podcast or anything, I asked Danielle on Facebook if she ever had any kind of experiences there. And she said, no, she hadn't, to be honest. But she also said, but I wouldn't spend the night there.
Mm.
So.
Would you spend the night there?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Why not? Mm. But anyway, Cappy is an interesting fellow from all the readings that we've done. Because I have to say, I don't mean to call him out on anything, but it seems like a lot of these stories are told by him.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these ghost stories.
He unearthed a lot of them, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it starts with him in the 70s and early 80s talking about, from what I read, the newspaper report said, strange happenings at Ashland Inn or whatever. And it was mostly just things like, the doors would open by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
We'd lock things up at night and we'd come in the next day and they'd be completely unlocked and wide open. Lights would turn on and off by themselves. Faucets would turn on and off by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then the thing about the phantom tips.
Yeah.
Bartenders and piano players.
Yep.
Because they do have live music even to this day.
They do. And quiz night.
And quiz night. Stone's Public House. And yeah, so phantom $10 tips.
Yep.
Would show up. And there was a picture of John Stone hanging over the bar. I don't know if it's still there.
Yes, there is. I think
Still
it's over
there?
the fireplace or somewhere.
Right.
But
It's got a place of
honor.
honor somewhere.
Yeah.
So the staff used to turn around and say thank you
Mm-hmm.
when the tip showed up. So for spirits that are supposed to have been involved in a murder, most of them seem pretty friendly.
Yeah, I haven't heard. Well,
We'll get to some of the
but,
we'll get to some of the more mischievous things. I guess that's what we'll call them.
And Cappy brought in a lot of the ghost hunters.
Right. So that's So in the early 80s, mid 80s.
He mixed the pot on that one.
What's that?
He was kind of mixing the pot on that
Yeah.
one, bringing them in.
Yeah. In the early 80s or mid 80s, he brought in different paranormal investigators, I guess, psychics, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he said they all told wildly different stories, except for the fact that the second floor, the back half, they all pinpointed that as a place where a lot of spirit activity was taking place.
Mm.
And that is commonly where people claim to see spirits in the window.
Mm-hmm.
Including your daughter? Is that where she...
I'm not sure where she saw it.
Okay.
We drove by it on the morning school run.
Okay.
And one day, she was 6 at the time. One day we drove by and she said, "Mommy, there's a little girl up in the window."
Oh, boy.
And I said, "Where?" And she pointed at Johnstone's, and I don't think she knows the story of the little girl.
Yeah.
And I went, "Oh, boy, that's the last time we're driving by Johnstone's in the morning." Or ever.
All right. We're going to talk about the little girl in more detail in a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
We're going to continue. So one of the psychics, so the whole legend of the poker game,
Mm-hmm.
there is, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is zero historical evidence for any of it.
Yeah, there's no newspaper articles
Right.
on it.
Or anybody
From the
missing
past.
or anything like that. So no
No,
one came
nothing has
looking for
been-
this
Yeah, no one has found anything anyway.
New Yorker who we discovered his name was supposed to be Michael somehow.
Yeah.
Michael the New Yorker.
Michael the New Yorker.
And so I wondered, like, how does that legend come about? Like, where did that come from? And apparently the answer is some psychic, I was about to say made it up, but maybe he didn't make it up. Maybe he got it
Well, he must
from
have
the spirits.
saw it from the spirits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But it was a juicy story, so that is the one that has lived on
Yeah.
in legend. So he was one of these psychics that Cappy brought in to investigate, and he said,
Mhm.
hey, this is the story. This is
Yeah.
why there's ghost here.
And he said that, I think he said that the reason there was nothing in the newspaper about it is because they swore the pact to not tell anybody, and they buried the body in the basement.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But there's conflicting reports in the books that I've read and what you can find online. Some people say it was John Stone plus 3 local townspeople.
Mm-hmm.
But then, where did we read that? I think on Stone's Public House site,
Yeah.
it said that there
6 or
was
7?
6 to 7 people
Mhm.
involved in the plot.
Yeah.
So who knows? There's,
It's a good story.
I don't know. Let's say 10. Make it 10. Make it a nice
Round
round
it
10.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I know they're trying to go for, like, I've heard some of the books claim, like, oh, it's the most haunted inn in New England or in America.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're trying to get that title. So let's bump up the number for
Hey,
them.
yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Help him out.
There's at least 25 ghosts in Johnstone's.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm going to go there
Okay.
when I'm a ghost. I'm not saying I'm going to live there, but I'll visit.
Hey, if they're serving up corned beef cabbage rolls, I'm in.
And then there is also the legend about if you go down to the basement,
Mm-hmm.
people have claimed that they feel someone grabbing their ankles as they walk down the stairs.
Yeah. Now that you've told me that, when I've worked there in the past, that still freaks me out.
But you didn't feel it. You just
No,
are freaked out by the story.
I was just freaked out by the creepy basement, and now that you've added to it, has just added to my... I'm never going back down there again if I ever am in there.
Yeah, because so we describe the basement. It's basically like just an unfinished, but not like more than unfinished. It's like stone slab.
Yeah, it's like stone walls, dirt floor type. I mean, this was when I worked there back in whenever we were in high school in the 90s.
Yeah, I don't think they've changed too much.
Big walk-in freezer that makes hellish noises and only like one light. They use it for storage with tables and chairs, but then there's all these little nooks and all the little areas and all these little dark corners. Oh God, no, thank you.
So a couple more things about the basement while we're down there.
Mm-hmm.
Is another one of the things that the spirits are supposed to do is that if you go into that freezer, they kind of hold you in there or kind of push you in.
Yeah, thanks for that. Thank God you didn't tell me that when I worked there.
Yeah, not in a playful way, not in a harmful way, from what I've read. So they're not really trying to harm you. They're just trying to like
play.
Yeah. And they the waitresses and bartenders will feel taps on the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a couple of reports of hearing names called and stuff like that.
Bouncing balls down the stairs. I've heard that one too.
Yeah. And glasses flying off the shelf and either spinning in the air or just dropping on the floor if the spirit was upset.
Yeah.
And another interesting thing about the basement.
The Underground Railroad?
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently there's supposed to be a tunnel from the front of Stones out to the train station, which is like across the street.
Yeah. So that was it the train station back in the day too?
Yeah.
So the Underground Railroad turned into the legit railroad at that point?
I guess.
All right.
But yeah,
it was supposed to be a stop on the Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
And they have, speaking of the body buried in the basement, they have, from what I've read, dug up spots in the basement. I don't think they've necessarily done a full excavation or anything, but they've dug up spots, and surprise, surprise, found no bones.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Keep up
Still
the
holding
faith.
out hope?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. You want to see? I'm rooting for him not to be a murderer.
Oh, I see. I don't even think he was there.
Okay.
No, I don't think he was there.
All right. Let's talk about the little girl. I think this is probably aside from maybe John Stone himself, this is the famous spirit.
Yeah, she's pretty big.
Yeah. So what can we say about the little girl?
Well, the cool
because
thing,
I thought that this was something that was made up. I didn't think there was any historical evidence about a little girl because the legend is there's a little girl that haunts the second floor, second and maybe third floor.
Yeah, she plays on the stairs.
Right. And that she was hit by a train. And now she haunts the inn because she was hit right outside the inn.
Yeah. And they brought her in to the inn.
Okay.
To provide her with medical attention after she was hit by the train.
All right. Fair enough. I didn't even hear that part, but all right.
That's like the end of the story.
Okay. See, I was missing the end.
Yeah.
TiVo cut it off right there.
There you go.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is that it's legit.
Which I just learned tonight.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. Historian filled me in.
Yeah.
So tell us about it.
Her name was Mary, and she was 10 years old. She was almost 11. This happened June 11th, 1863, and she was hit by the train, and there's actually newspaper articles about it. And her parents were from Ireland. I think they came from Boston. But I don't think that there's any record of where she's buried. I read somewhere that they thought she was buried somewhere in a Milford cemetery, but I don't think anyone's been able to find her stone or anything. And she has a very common name. Like, I think her name was Mary Smith or something like that. Very common, so it's kind of difficult to find. But yeah, that story is legit.
All right. So now if we see this little girl ghost, we can say, hey, Mary.
Talk to my daughter and be like, yo, where is she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Good to know.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's another legend that grows out of that legend. That in the 90s, one of the waitresses was at the inn with her boyfriend. And for whatever reason, they went rooting around the attic.
Yeah.
Either because they had heard that there was a dress up there or some other reason. And they found a trunk. And in the trunk was a little girl's dress.
Ooh.
With blood on it.
Ooh.
Now, again, this is where the story gets weird. Because instead of just going down and saying, hey, we just found this fucked up thing in the attic, they said, hey, let's take this home.
Yeah.
Why do you want a bloody little girl's dress? Like, even, like, I'm a fan of ghost stories and the paranormal and all that. Like, obviously, I got a whole podcast about it.
Mm-hmm.
But, and even if I went up there and thought, like, this must be the little girl who was hit by the train and this is a local legend and it's really cool.
Yeah.
My thought would not be, I'm going to take this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep this.
I don't think they kept it. Did they keep it?
They brought it home.
Oh, I thought they just brought it downstairs.
No, the stories that I've read,
Oh.
they brought it home.
Yeah, I wouldn't take it home. I probably would have just been like, yo, you better go check your attic.
Yeah.
You got some scary ass shit up there.
Yeah, no, that I've always heard that they brought it home. Either that first she kept it, and spooky shit kept happening. It doesn't describe what happened. It just says,
oh, stuff went crazy.
that's right.
Yeah.
That, like, all hell broke loose.
Yeah.
And then she said, I can't take this anymore, and gave it to her boyfriend.
Oh.
But then the same thing happened at his place. So she had to fess up and bring it back and say, like, we can't take this anymore. We're going to return it. We're putting it back in the attic.
Sorry.
Where, allegedly, it still is to this day.
Yeah, but
I guess.
now we're wondering if they framed it and it's hanging upstairs somewhere.
If it's legit.
Yeah.
I have my doubts as to if that whole story is true.
Oh.
So we'll see. I'm calling you on it.
Oh, you are?
Not you, but whoever.
I will have to go hunt
I'm
the
calling
article
this
next time I'm down
unnamed-
the society.
This unnamed waitress.
Oh, that part of the story.
Yeah. Wait, what'd you think?
Oh, the she was hit by the train story.
Oh, no. That if
That's
you say
legit.
it happened,
That's legit.
I'm good. For the most part, the things that these spirits do are pretty harmless, and they seem to just kind of be, again, for a group of co-conspirators in a murder.
I know, they're pretty laid back.
Yeah, pretty fun-loving, like just like kind of teasing with people.
Yeah.
But
I think one of the seances though that Cappy had.
Yeah.
I think the medium or whoever it was had said that at one point the conspirators were like all in the room with them, and Johnstone came in and he was like mad and he was like, "You guys need to leave."
Yes, I have heard that too.
Yeah.
That you need to get off my property.
But he didn't like poltergeist them.
The only real scary thing that I've heard the ghost doing is there was a woman who was dining in the restaurant. There's two sides at Stone's Public House. There's the bar and then there's the restaurant. And there was a woman who was dining and she suddenly felt hands around her neck choking her. Yet, as she was being choked, she was able to gasp out, "Get my check!"
I would have been like, "You need to pay for my check."
That's a story that also is reported by Cappy Fournier.
Yeah.
So it's a nice place.
Yeah.
And even when they were wearing the weird clothes, it was still a good place.
Yeah. Oh,
The
yeah.
food was still
It's
good.
always been kind of cool to
At a
go
reasonable price.
to. Yeah. Plus, it's a nice
Good drinks.
atmosphere.
Good atmosphere. Live music.
Yeah.
Quiz bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Good times.
Cabbage
Good times
rolls.
to be had. What's that?
Cabbage rolls.
Cabbage rolls. Good times to be had at Stone's Public House.
That's right.
Support your local businesses.
Yes, and local ghosts.
If you have any spooky comments or questions about this topic or any other topic on spooky ass shit, the email for the show is spookyassshit@gmail.com. That's all one word. And I guess that's it for now. I really think maybe we'll do another episode where we'll try to get some guests in here.
Yeah.
Cappy and maybe some people that worked there.
Yeah.
Maybe someone that works there now, and see if we can get some more stories and
Yeah, maybe someone will email you some stuff.
yeah. Spooky ass shit. All right. My good friend Jenny Blades.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on.
Of course.
It's been a pleasure.
It has. It's been
All
fun.
right. We'll see you next time.
All right.
Oh, again, I'm trying to think of a way to end the show. I haven't come up with anything better, so I'm just going to say, don't be afraid.
I thought
Go to Stone's Public House. Have a drink. Have some
corned beef cabbage rolls.
corned beef cabbage rolls.